Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday. Coming to you live from Palm Beach County, Florida. The Dancing Elephant, to be specific, Florida's #1 metaphysical, religious book and crystal store. And we're joined by Mitch Kumstein here from Mitch Kumstein from the One-on-One podcast. And guys, we left off a couple Thursdays ago talking about Scarface. Juan and I have been doing a Thursday Florida movie breakdown series, talking about the esoteric symbolism, conspiracy theories associated with all these great movies, films, TV shows, either set in Florida or filmed in Florida. And we've done ones like Truman Show, Edward Scissorhands, whole bunch of good ones. But Scarface was on that list too. Now, we did Scarface like 2 weeks ago, and there was so much to talk about that we had to split it up into 2 parts. So if you didn't catch the first part, go check that out on our YouTube channels. And here's Scarface Part 2. So what's up, everyone? Drop an orange in the chat if you're here, if you're excited, if you're ready to say hello to my little friend. Okay. And also, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you go check out tjojp.com. All right. And a show of Puerto Rican flags in the chat here for some Juan appreciation. Okay. You can drop a Puerto Rican flag in the chat.
Doesn't exist.
Really?
I don't know. I'm just talking shit.
Puerto Rican emoji. Let's see some Puerto Rican emojis in the flag. Yeah, there we go. Hell yeah. Or some bean emojis. Those are okay too. Some rice and bean emojis. But or the trash emoji. No, just kidding.
Yeah, the trash can emoji.
Yeah, the trash can emoji. Do the island palm tree.
Yeah.
And then trash emoji. That equals.
It's a very nice trash island, but yeah, I told you it doesn't exist, you see? Damn, that is racist. I'm gonna write an email to Apple. If they can have a pregnant man on there, but they can't have the Puerto Rican flag, that's messed up, dude.
Dude, yeah, try searching Jesus in the emojis. You search devil, you get like 10 results. You search Jesus, you get, it's like,
because emojis are the new sigils, bro. Didn't you know
right?
that?
They're all pulled out of the Solomonic magic.
That's
sigils, right? The Goetia.
Speaking of which, I pulled something up. Check this out, bro. I make sure to me. Am I coming through the right mic? Yes, I am. I pulled up the movie and the scene where he offs the Jewish corrupt cop and the kingpin, I guess. You know what time it happened at, bro?
What time was it?
Boom. Oh, move us over. Boom.
3:03
confirmed.
At 3:00. This is directly when he shot the corrupt cop and the other guy.
Damn.
3:03, baby.
Whoa. Is that a Puerto Rican flag or a Cuban flag?
That's a Cuban flag.
Yeah.
Colors are inverted.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Colors are inverted. Now
It's
I know.
Miami, you know.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that is a Cuban flag. But yeah, I found it. I literally paused it right here. I was like, oh snap! Look at that. Perfect way, as old Henry Flagley would say, cocaine is a hell of a drug. And apparently, Al Pacino did so much of this. It was like a milk powder or something. He did so much of it in this movie that he had respiratory issues for the rest of his life. You know, he still
Damn.
has because he's still around. He's kind of
Really?
creepy, isn't he? Doesn't he have like a 20-year-old girlfriend? Did he just have a kid
Yeah.
with her? Oh,
Yeah, he's
man.
super creepy.
Yeah.
He looks terrible now. He's like 80 though, whatever.
Yeah, he's like 80 something years old. It was milk powder.
Damn.
That's what they said it was.
Well, last show, this is where we stopped off. We stopped at the scene where Tony Montana gets revenge on his old boss who tried to set him up. And after he gets back at him, he takes his life, takes his house, his wife, his car, and like becomes him, becomes a better version of him, right? Eclipses him. And there's kind of something to this. What's the story my brother knows and told me about? It's like kind of a archetypal myth where there's a story about a magician or like a wizard in a forest who has like a sacred post, you know, like a long tradition of like a place that he's supposed to keep sacred and like watch over, right? And the way that you get this job is by offing the one that came before you. So when you do this job, you become, I forget what it is. Someone's going to know. It's like a common myth or common story. And I think it comes from like the Mediterranean, like Babylon.
Really? So hold on.
Yeah, it's like a wizard. It's like a wizard of an area who has like, he like presides over an area. And in order to get the job, you have to fight the previous one, who's probably older, a lot older than you. So the younger one comes and challenges him. That's how you get the job. And then you do it for so many years, and there are challengers. So if you beat the challenger, you keep the job, right? And if you're really tough, then they're not going to challenge you, right? But eventually someone will. So there's a word for that myth. I don't really know it, for that story. My brother told me about it.
Is he in the chat?
He might be. And this is definitely drawing on that. Kind of the way that, you know, it's not uncommon for people to kind of get competitive with their bosses or want to outdo them, take their spot. But Tony's going as far as to like seduce his wife before he takes over, you know, like he wants his life. He wants his wife. But this is the scene where Tony takes over. Now, in part one, we talked about a whole bunch of rabbit holes, gopher holes with the movie, starting from the very beginning. A lot of innuendos, a lot of Brazilian coding.
People were mad about that, bro. On the comments, some people were saying that they don't like us calling the Brazilians.
That's why I say Jazillion. I try and say Jazillion.
Yeah, they were a little angry about that. Some Brazilians were angry about that. Like, what are you talking about? Us Brazilians. I'm like, hey, dude, I don't make the rules, man. You know what I'm saying?
Now, we talked about how the director, Oliver Stone, is currently a cabinet member. I think you can call him that. He's involved with the Trump cabinet. He's an advisor to President Trump. Let's just say that. So Oliver Stone, the director, or I don't know if he's the director. He's the creator of Scarface, right? His son is a very, very prominent conspiracy theory YouTuber or like a web show host. And he's had people like Santos Bonacci. He's had everyone on his show, right? Some people say he's a shill. Some people say he's a whatever. But if you've heard them two talk together, seems like they're pretty critical of the establishment. But you know, they're Trumpers. They like Trump. They're, from what I've heard recently, pretty anti-Israel, which is pretty cool. But because they are a Jezillian themselves. So you'll notice in this movie, and you know, Oliver Stone's been accused of being a self-loathing Jezillian. So, self-loathing Jezillian. Hope you catch on with that. I think everyone knows what we're talking about by now. But in his movies, you'll see references kind of, I guess he denigrates.
Bro, this guy's been into some stuff, man. I'm looking at his wiki page.
Yeah. And he's kind of talked down on Jezillians in some of his movies. Now, some people say that he covered for Israel in his JFK movie. Who knows? Who knows what type of pressure he was under? Who knows if, you know, we don't all get the full picture right up front. You know, sometimes you realize, oh, I was wrong about that 20 years later, but whatever. Oliver Stone's pretty cool in my book as far as Hollywood movie, you know, directors, writers, screenwriters go. But the reason this is important is because the whole movie, most of Scarface, is very Jezillian coded. And the reason for that is, you know, Oliver Stone, that's kind of his background. He grew up Jezillian. But then also, Miami, of course, South Florida, full of not only Cubans, but Jezillians. We also talked about the fact that many, many, many Cubans, tens of thousands, if not much, much more, to this very day have a ton of Sephardic and Ashkenazi genetics, DNA, you know, hidden genealogy. Some of them know, some of them don't. Most of them don't. That has to do with the fact that many of the earliest conquistadors to the Caribbean were escaping, they were Jezillians escaping persecution in the Iberian Peninsula. Columbus, right? All the people who came after him. So there's a lot of that going on in the movie, and many of the characters in Scarface are Jezillian, you know, evidently. You know, it's obvious. Can't ignore it in some scenes. And the names that are used, right? So you could say, oh, it's just a South Florida thing, but I think Oliver Stone was making a little bit of a statement. And because Cuba has such a rich history of conversos, Marranos, Anusim, right? Okay. And also because many of the characters who are portraying Cuban people in this movie themselves are Jezillian, have, you know, yeah, you guys get it. Go watch the first part. You'll see what I mean. Well, there's a lot more of that in part 2. So just keep an eye out for that, right? Kind of the next big, maybe the next big villain of part 2 of the movie. Also the case for him. So, right, because the big villain or the big adversary in part 1 was Jezillian. The big adversary and guy who gets him in part 2, also Jezillian. Okay.
Also, right, this story that you're talking about, I almost see it like not so much like a David and Goliath, but this, I think it's part of the hero's journey, right? Where the hero has to overcome the adversaries. And did we lose you, Longo?
Yeah, my Wi-Fi cut out. You there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. What were you saying? David and Goliath?
David and Goliath, you know, the underdog kind of sort of takes over. And it's part of the monomyth where the hero has to overcome the obstacles And maybe that's why this movie speaks to people too, or maybe that's why it's popular, because it does have some sort of that. You know, we talked a little bit about that on the last live stream, where it's about the archetypal American dream, where you come here and you get super mega rich or whatever it is. But obviously Tony Montana took a darker, more sinister path, full of death and fear and things of that nature. And I think that, again, how whenever you see somebody where you don't know what they do for a living, the first thing you think of is like, oh, he must, you know, move weight. I think we've been kind of programmed to see, I guess, kingpins and drug dealers because of like Hollywood as that, like, oh, they always have money, they always but that's reality too. I mean, you have a lot of cartels and things in real life that are super mega rich because of the things that they do. So, you know, I see it like that. Maybe that's why it's popular, because people kind of resonate with that. But yeah, I couldn't find the name of that myth that you were talking about. But if Chungus shows up in the chat later, he can let us know.
Yeah, it's, you know, the one story I'm thinking of refers to like a priest, which was interesting. But that kind of dynamic holds true for just like kings, of course, too, like rulers, leaders. You know, you have the job until someone takes it from you, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Fall of empires and whatnot. And that's been all of history, bro. I mean, that's been since the beginning of time. Stronger peoples taking over weaker peoples, and so on and so forth. And it's been like that ever since. I mean, we see it even till this day. So
Yeah, but you know, people can't take it too personally. You know, that's why you gotta, you know, like, does the big raindrop want to bully the smaller raindrop that it absorbs, or like the cell? You know, when
we're all
cells cells
one.
absorb.
We're all the same. We're all just raindrops merging together. Is that what you're trying to get at? We're all the same?
I don't know, but we need some more Coca Cola tonight, dude. You know what I was thinking about tonight or earlier today when I was preparing for this? Um, I was just thinking to myself, am I addicted to cocaine? Are you addicted to cocaine? Because we drink Coca Cola all the time.
Yes.
Coca Cola has coca leaf in it.
Does it though?
Yeah,
Come on, bro. That's a
it does.
that's a weird thing to say on air. I mean, I don't see any Coca on here, dude. I mean, they would put it on here, no?
Natural flavors. It's in the natural flavors,
Oh,
bro.
natural. That's the name
It's
of
a,
the ingredient, natural flavors, and it's real
people.
meat.
Let me just say something about this, okay? We got to clear the air on this here. We got to clear the air on this, okay? All my holistic health people out there who are all worried about natural flavors, they're all like, natural flavors, natural flavors. That's beaver gland. You know, that's beaver butthole, right?
Beaver ass gland.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, they're like, anytime you see natural flavors, that's beaver juice, dude. And these people, you know, I'm sure I've told that to someone at some point, right?
I'm sure you have, yeah.
Natural flavors. After being in a food company, I got a little more insight into natural flavors. Natural flavors is how brands protect their recipe. Because if you had to list every single fucking ingredient on the back, your shit would just get stolen. So what they do is, if it's under a certain amount, or if it's within a certain, you know, if it's within a certain category, natural flavors, right? If it's deemed a natural flavor, they don't have to disclose what it is. As long as it's not like an allergen, they don't have to disclose what it is. Now, the conspiracy is that's the
You're
beaver,
cutting out,
that there
bro.
is a beaver. You can't hear me?
Uh-oh, you're cutting literally the conspiracy, and you cut out. Keep going.
Here, you hear me?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
The conspiracy is that you have things like the beaver gland, the vanilla scent, the fake vanilla scent that is from the beaver gland. The conspiracy is that things like that are included in the category of natural flavors when they shouldn't be. So when people see natural flavors, they go full retard. They go, durr, when they see natural flavors. You can be suspicious, you can be cautious, but it doesn't mean necessarily beaver gland. So natural flavors in Coke, what are they? Essential oils. That's right, people. Essential oil of lavender, essential oil of neroli, and I believe a couple others like cinnamon, nutmeg, I think, coriander. Coriander is a maybe, but it's mostly just carbonated limeade, caramel color from real caramel, right? Coke's pretty good, guys. Non-GMO. Give it a chance. Okay?
Are you looking for a sponsor, bro?
I'll take it. If they're giving them, I'll take it. Speaking of sponsors, guys, if you want to donate to the support the show here, you can donate to the Xbox, Pizza, and Grand Theft Auto 6 fund.
And Coca-Cola.
You can super chat. I've got a Patreon. You can also go hit Juan's Patreon up. Go hit tjojp.com. But we'll read off some of these tips here. Wyatt with the $9.99 support. Appreciate it. Nick and Tash, the $5 Australian dollars.
Is that imaginary money? What is that?
For real. Candy dollars.
Monopoly money.
Expensive toilet paper. That's what it is.
I'm just kidding.
No, just kidding. Thank you. Virtual reality witness, the $4.99. These two cats hosting this stream are as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Hey.
Hell yeah. It's high praise. Well, all right, guys.
So there is, have you ever heard of, let me find the name of it. Cenomix. Have you ever heard about that conspiracy on this topic of, this had to do with PepsiCo, but every time somebody usually, I mean, I haven't seen it happen, but I saw one person say it, that they put certain kind of cells in this sort of thing. Fetal cells. Have you ever heard about that conspiracy before?
I mean, yes, in the GMO, when they GMO things, they use like a human like genome as like the template for like gene splicing, because we know how to work with human DNA so well, human cells so well. They use like a human cell to GMO other things.
Mm-hmm. Like it's the main,
like
Pepsi.
From
there. Is that why Pepsi's of the devil and Coke isn't?
Yep, that's why you'll never see rich people drinking Pepsi, but you'll see them drinking Coke. Okay. And by the way, you know, like in the 70s and 80s, they used to tell people and say and advertise that Coke was for white people and Pepsi was for everyone else.
Really?
It's true. It's true. And if I'm not mistaken, if I get crucified over this, I don't care, whatever. From what I've heard, black people really like Pepsi. And they
love their grape drink.
They don't like Coke as much. But
really? Huh.
Could be a conspiracy theory. I don't know. But
I'm gonna have to ask my neighbor. He's black. See if he likes Coke or not. Probably not. But anyways, yeah, that's the conspiracy, and I've seen that a lot. And it goes back to what we talked about, the Wendy's, Watiko, where it's real meat. That's the name of the brand of the meat, but we still don't know how you're saying the ingredients, made with real meat. What is even that? All right, what's in the real meat, bro? And it might be this sort of same thing. But isn't it weird that you're saying that, you're addicted to it, or we're addicted to it? Yes, I drink it every day. Isn't that a bad thing? Maybe they're putting some sort of that's again, that's the McUltra, the McDonald's, you know, where they keep people coming back for more. Is it the sugar? Is it the processed sugar? Like, what is it? You know?
Yeah. Well, Coke has coca leaf, so that's one of those ingredients that isn't disclosed in the natural flavors. But
And check this out.
yeah.
I don't know, bro. I don't wanna disrespect you or anything, but I don't know.
Well, you said cocaine. Right there it says yes, coca leaf.
Where
They take the cocaine out of their coca leaf and they sell it to hospitals and stuff. They
bro,
sell it.
what?
Yep, look it up.
Wait, say that again?
Coca-Cola takes, you know, they have a lot of coca leaf. They buy a lot of coca leaf. And they have it harvested and produced, and they have a license.
Oh my god! So they actually use spent leaf. I see it here. The leftovers.
They have a license to handle the ingredients to cocaine,
Bruh.
and they separate the cocaine from the coca leaf, and they sell the legal cocaine to pharmaceuticals companies.
Bro, that's crazy.
Look it up. Yeah. What is? Yeah. So YouTube.
There's still trace amounts there, though. It's not like it's 100%. They ringed out every single last drop of it. Let's send them the spent. No, there's still stuff in there.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
They're basically Colombian. Whoa, bro.
Yep.
That's crazy. Yeah, we are microdosing. That's why. That's why people are addicted.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell people I've been microdosing Coke. That's why they call it Coke.
Man.
Coke.
That's
Coke.
wild, bro. All right. Well, I stand corrected. I didn't read that last part, but yeah, that's crazy, bro. All right, here we go.
Hell yeah. If you don't like it, you can get out. Just teasing.
That's what the doctor prescribed.
But, well, let's pick up where the movie left off. We see him execute his previous boss. Then he executes the DEA agent, right? Or chief of police or whatever he is. And nobody thought Tony had the balls to do that, right? He didn't have the balls, right? He didn't think Tony had the balls to shoot him. He acted like didn't have a care in the world. Well, Tony gets rid of these guys. He hires his enemy's bodyguards, right? Pretty classy move. And then he goes and he wakes up his wife, the wife of his dead boss, who he just executed. Wakes her up and pretty much says, get your shit. You're mine now. Right? That's why people love this movie too. It's like that easy, you know. No dates. Guys, come on. Let's just fantasize for a sec. No dates, none of the texting bullshit. None of the what are you doing in 2 weeks?
Living in the moment.
Just here's my gun. He's dead. Get in the car. We're going. Come on, ladies. You know you like that. Come on, ladies.
Check out that last comment. That's a good comment right there. That's crazy. I've been to that museum.
Coca-Cola Atlanta?
Yeah.
Why did they choose Ocala, Florida? Ocala? Coke Ocala?
Coca-Cola?
Come on, hit the button, bro.
What?
Hit the button, bro. Come
on. Sorry, wrong.
Illuminati confirmed.
The FBI is going to be coming soon, bro, if we keep exposing their secrets. Right?
Got $1.99 from Virtual Reality Witness. I prefer Woodford Reserve. Neat.
Is that
Nothing beats that.
Alcoholic drink? What is that?
I don't know what that is.
Woodford Reserve Neat. I mean, that's usually what they say. Reserve and Coke. So it's a drink. Yeah. It's a popular bourbon can be mixed with Coca-Cola for a classic, simple cocktail known as bourbon and Coke or whiskey and Coke. Yeah.
Vehicular Alchemy with the 9.99.
Hey,
Sup, gents. Hope all is well. Been busy, but sending all love. Appreciate
Yep.
it. Thank you.
I was just making sure they didn't show any titties on here when I pulled it up.
D is yours.
Oh,
Capital D.
All right. Well, anyways, it says the world is yours, and then from there on, he has this sort of epiphany. This is after reuniting with his with the woman that's going to be his wife, which was the former wife of the former kingpin.
Yeah.
And he looks outside his window and he sees a blimp or an airship. It says, "The world is yours."
Yep.
And then
can you like skip through the scene a little bit so people can see like
oh.
There you go.
Well, it's 10 seconds unless you he looks at it and then he's like, "Okay, man." And then he like takes over the world. The hell does that say? Pan
American Airlines. Which
okay.
Yeah. And that's a reference to the original. So this is all in the original Scarface story. I believe it's in the book, but the 1930s movie. I believe Tony Camonte, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Not Tony Montana. The original gangster story. And he looks up at a blimp. And
what years did Blimps come out?
They've been around for a while, dude. Dude, that's where we're going tonight, dude. That's what we're getting into. We're about to go balls deep on Blimps.
Ooh, 1852. Damn.
The fucking Inca had hot air balloons. Leonardo da Vinci had hot air balloons. They've had hot air balloons in China for like 2,000 years.
Really?
Yeah, look it up. Yep.
I know it's connected to Tartaria, free energy, all that shit. I know that. But 2,000 years ago, bro? Come on. The first steam-powered steerable airship, often considered the precursor to blimps, was invented in 1852 by French engineer Henry Giffard. While Giffard's airship was the first full-sized airship, the term blimp specifically refers to non-rigid or semi-rigid airships that rely on internal gas pressure to maintain their shape. So, you're saying that hot air balloons, you said the Inca hot air balloon?
Yeah, look it up. Ancient Peru. Pretty sure about that.
Is that how they were able to draw was that the Nazca lines? Was that who did the Nazca lines?
Yep, that's a good theory. Yep.
Oh, I see something here. Let me pull it up.
They were made of like animal skins. Yep, those are them.
Whoa, that's wild. 1,500 years ago, dude.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Let's break down the blimps, the airship conspiracy. A lot of people know about the Tartaria movement and the
butt plug. Look at that.
Yep. Airships. Go ahead.
This is 1783 flight of Montgolfier hot air balloon. So the Montgolfier brothers didn't manage to build a man-carrying balloon until 1783, but the flight, dude, this is crazy, man. To be honest, like this is wild. Can you imagine the first guy, being the first guy to be like, I'm gonna make that's essentially flesh. I'm gonna take this flesh and make a balloon out of it. And I want to go in it to fly in the air. Who thinks of that? Can you imagine being the first guy to do that and getting that idea of like, I'm going to go float in the sky with this piece of flapping flesh, as you're going over. That's wild, man. I didn't know it went back that far. It's more compelling now if you're gonna get into the blimp and the airship conspiracy. Now it makes more sense.
Yep. Yeah, and also, as far as airships in America, Florida was the capital of airship activity in America. Now, passenger airships, they probably, in terms of people, they probably did a lot more in like New York and Chicago and stuff like that. Because, Florida didn't really get developed until like 100 years ago. But before Florida was even developed, full of airships. America's #1 airship port for a time, Skyport, was in Opelika, Florida. Opelika, Florida, just outside Miami. And that was started by a guy named Glenn Curtis. Glenn Curtis was a competitor to, thank you, Juan. So yeah, we could talk, there's so many, ways to approach the whole airship thing, but one that I've covered a lot on my channel is this guy, Glenn Curtis. There's an entire city just outside Miami, a suburb of Miami, called Opelika, Florida. The whole city is designed in like Muslim, Arabic, Moorish architecture. And they tell us, the history books tell us that Glenn Curtis, this guy who used to be a motorcycle rider, he was like the Evel Knievel of his time, kind of. He was one of the first guys to ever slap a gasoline engine onto many, many different vehicles. So, for example, he didn't have anything to do with inventing the airship, but he is credited with adapting the airship to gasoline, largely. And kind of his role in the whole new century was to get devices, machines, vehicles that people were used to using for decades that were already, often steam powered, electricity powered, right? Cleaner energy, more renewable, more like free energy if you want to go real Tartaria. His job was pretty much, there's a motorcycle that's electric. Let's convert it to gasoline. There's a hovercraft that's like steam powered. Let's convert it to gasoline. There's an electric car in 1910, right? Electric cars in 1910, they don't like to talk about that. Because guys like Glenn Curtis were adapting them to gasoline. So he's I think most famous for competing with the Wright brothers and building airplanes, building gasoline-powered airplanes. He's also famous for breaking a lot of land speed records as a motorcycle rider. On the east coast of Florida, near Ormond Beach, Daytona, Daytona's the racing capital of the world because of how flat its beaches are. And its natural beaches are so flat that you can take a motorcycle and go 150 miles an hour on the beaches. No potholes, no cracks, no nothing. No hills, no dunes. It's like perfect, flat, like a track.
Wasn't there a conspiracy that he stole some information from the Wright brothers, was it? Can you correct me on that?
No, you're right. So he got started, like everything he touched, he got famous for. And maybe I'm just jealous. Maybe this guy's as great as they say. Maybe this guy is like the new Leonardo da Vinci. Okay. But I know that he was caught up in a lot of scandals. And one of those was one of the earliest scandals that the Smithsonian was ever involved in. So Glenn Curtis, while he was competing with the Wright brothers to kind of invent the first flight-worthy, long-distance self-propelled airplane, while he was competing with them,
Did we lose you?
he conspired with members of the Smithsonian institution, I forget. Smithsonian Institution. But he conspired with, I forget the guy's name, but he was a leader, like higher up in the Smithsonian. They conspired to steal kind of, what would the word be? I don't know if it was a patent. I think it was just like a achievement. Like, I was the first to do this. It wasn't the first airplane flight. It was something else.
Like bragging rights, like the recognition for it versus.
Yeah. It was something. It wasn't the first flight.
Oh, right here, the patent dispute.
Yeah. Okay, it was a patent. I was wrong. It was over a patent. So apparently he conspired to steal a patent or to have one of the Wright brothers' patents delegitimized. So the Smithsonian conspired with him to help him do that. And they all knew it was wrong when they were doing it. But
want me to read this part?
Yeah, go for it.
A patent lawsuit by the Wright brothers against Curtis in 1909 continued until it was resolved during World War I. Since the last Wright aircraft, the Wright Model L, was a single prototype of a scouting aircraft made in 1916. The U.S. government, desperately short of combat aircraft, pressured both firms to resolve the dispute. Of 9 suits Wright brought against Curtis and others, the 3 suits brought against them, the Wright brothers eventually won every case in courts in the United States. So these guys were working for the government.
Yeah, and I guess they ended up working together because they had a company called Curtis Wright.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah, they ended up coming together, or people, I don't know much. I could be, I could be way off base here, but they ended up coming together, or at least their names were brought together, right, in the company. So, but that's one of the scandals he was involved in, and it doesn't reflect well on the Smithsonian. But, if that's the type of guy he is, and he's credited with all these inventions, he's credited with inventions in cameras. He worked for Kodak before they became Kodak. And
right here, bro. In 1908, so I hear the soon after the Wright brothers demonstrated their airplane, numerous others involved in similar efforts at the time sought to gain credit for their achievements, whether justified or not. In 1908, the Wrights warned Glenn Curtis not to infringe their patent by profiting from flying or selling aircraft used ailerons, so a hinge flight control surface. Okay, so I guess the type of wing. Curtis refused to pay license fees to the Wrights and sold an airplane to the Aeronautical Society of New York in 1909. The Wrights filed a lawsuit, beginning a years-long legal conflict. So these dudes were just suing everybody. They also sued foreign aviators who flew at U.S. exhibitions, including leading French aviator Louis Paulhan. The Curtis people derivatively, how the hell you say that? Derisively. Derisively.
I don't see the word.
Oh, sorry.
We're blocking it.
Suggested that if someone jumped in the air and waved his arms, the Wrights would sue. So these guys were kind of known for that.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
But, that's not the only scandal Curtis was involved in. When he, just look at the trajectory of this guy's life. He was pretty young when he died. I don't think he was older than 50. Find out how old he was when he died. 52.
52.
Yeah, young guy. And guess what? If my memory serves me correct, he died either in court or immediately after court. So he was involved in like another dispute, and he died very suddenly after court or in court.
He co-developed the city of Hialeah with James Bright and developed the cities of Opa-locka and Miami Springs, where he built a family home, known variously as Miami Springs Villas House. So it's an actual place, or it is still around, I guess. Historic home. The Glenn Curtis House, after years of despair and frequent vandalism, is being refurbished to serve as a museum in his honor. Frequent hunting trips into the Florida Everglades led to his final invention, the Adams Motor Bungalow, a forerunner of the modern recreational vehicle trailer, named after his business partner and half-brother G. Carl Adams. So fifth wheel trailer.
Yeah, I remember shitting on him a ton in YouTube videos, and then realizing he like invented the RV, and like and I was like van lifing.
Yeah, the Aero car, right? That's the one that's like all metal. Is that the one that, or is that the Streamline?
He also invented quote unquote invented or developed a hovercraft.
Ooh,
like hovercraft, that went over water.
Like an airboat, which would make sense if he's in Florida, right? So Curtis, this is a controversies. Curtis, working with the head of the Smithsonian Institute, Charles Walcott, sought
the head.
Oh,
the head of the Smithsonian.
The head, bro, is a conspiracy. Yeah.
Whoa.
Like a legit conspiracy. Sought to discredit the rights and rehabilitate the reputation of Samuel Langley, a former head of the Smithsonian who failed in his attempt at powered flight. Oh, so it was like my boy did it first. You're not going to get the credit. Powered flight. Secretly, Curtis extensively modified Langley's 1903 Aerodome, then demonstrated in 1914 that it could fly. In turn, the Smithsonian endorsed the false statement that Professor Samuel P. Langley had actually designed and built the first man-carrying flying machine capable of sustained flight. Walcott ordered the plane modified by Curtis to be returned to its original 1903 condition before going on display at the Smithsonian to cover up the deception. In 1928, the Smithsonian Board of Regents reversed its position and acknowledged that the Wright brothers deserved the credit for the first. Dude, that's crazy. That's wild, man. Like, there was a legit conspiracy because his boy before him had created it, and then they modified it back before putting it on display.
Yeah.
That's wild. So he suffered an attack of appendicitis, which actually I've had that.
Really?
I got mine taken out. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Complications. So he died on July 23rd, 1930 in Buffalo, New York, of complications from an appendectomy.
Dude, that's why you're so into the homunculus, because you probably tried to grow an appendix back, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I did. I almost died actually from it. They said that if I would have been an hour later, I would have been dead. So I wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, that's what they told me when they took out my wisdom teeth.
What?
No, just kidding. Just teasing.
Yeah, but I did almost die from it because mine actually mine ended up rupturing, and I was like in the early stages of septic shock, because essentially you really shit into your bloodstream. Oof. And you go septic and then you just die. Oh. So I was in the early stages of that, but they got me, unfortunately. And I'm here today. Still with us?
Yeah. I'm just spanking some of your loser followers real quick.
What happened? You want me to ban somebody?
No. This ain't the TJOJP podcast.
Oh,
okay? This is
it was bothering you or not, bro.
People can talk all the shit they want as long as they're not like spamming.
No, I didn't get my appendix back. I didn't ask for it back in a jar. Oh, you're making fun of your nose?
Yeah, someone
Are
said.
you sure you're not Jazillion?
Yeah, I'm not Jazillion. Now, if I look Jazillion at all, which I don't think I do. Okay, Jazillions know I don't look Jazillion. Okay.
No.
If I look Jazillion at all, it's by virtue of proximity. Okay.
Oh.
Not genetics.
You
Because I
start
grew
to
up.
turn
Yeah, because I
into
grew
the
up.
creation
Yeah,
by hanging out with it.
I eat their food. I've hung out with them, went to all their kids' birthday parties and stuff. But no, I have what's called a Greek nose. Okay, and you're clearly jealous. Go look at all the statues around the world.
Oh, here we go.
They don't have stubby little
A
underdeveloped
honker on them, dude.
mutant noses. Okay, they don't have little English bulldog noses. Please call in. Let's see what a specimen you are. I've got a. You want to know how to find out if you have a Greek nose?
That's a big ass nose, bro. Damn.
There you go.
You can smell Puerto Rico from here.
Yeah. No crook in my nose. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. A lot of people, when they get their nose reconstructed, they usually want like a pointy kind of nose, right?
Yeah. Long noses. People are gonna cringe. I don't care. You can fucking blow me. Long noses are a sign of intelligence. Okay. They're a sign of wisdom.
How about wide noses? What does that mean? No.
Nope. Go look at Jesus. How is Jesus always depicted? His nose is almost exaggerating. It's almost exaggeratedly. How would you say that? It's almost absurdly thin in many, because it's the thin nose and a high, the Greek nose. The Greeks didn't all have noses like that, but they believed that a tall and straight nose represented virtue. Crooked noses, hooked noses, not so much. Now, there's nothing wrong with big and long, folks, but let's make sure we're, being more, critical than just saying, "Oh, that's long, that's big, whatever." Fucking blow me. You're jealous. You got a stubby little snub nose. All right, with that aside, let's get back to the
the movie.
Back to the show here. Speaking of noses, we're talking about cocaine, and
Hey,
it's all relevant, folks. But
oh yeah, we were on the blimps, bro. We got the Aztec meat flap blimp that they
was that Aztec or Inca?
I'm sorry, Inca. You were gonna get into the history of blimps, and then we got into the old Glenn Curtis conspiracy with him in Florida, which he's an important figure in Florida history.
Yes, he is. Yeah, Glenn Curtis. And he's also, the last thing about Glenn Curtis is, well, here, can we go back to his Wikipedia, please, so people can see? I think they have a picture of his airship base somewhere in his Wikipedia. Do they?
His airship base? I didn't see that.
Yeah. Okay, well, search Curtis. I'll see if I can find it.
Is it one of these here? Curtis Wright Corporation, Curtis Airplane.
In 1928, Curtis made a separate donation of land 2 miles south of Opa-locka for Miami's first municipal airport. So he donated the land for Miami's first airport. And that's because he already had a very big chunk of land that he was using as an airship base. So, the airships were a thing before airplanes were really a thing. Airship technology was kind of at its peak before Curtis started adapting them to gasoline, right? Because once they're using dirty things like gasoline, then they're loud, they're noisy, way more dangerous.
Well, and
that's when people were like, oh, the airships are too dangerous, not worth it, because you're getting like the same mileage out of a plane, or worse mileage. I don't know, but
And wouldn't the gas powered engine be part of, again, like the conspiracy of the people in power? You have big oil in there. This is a time where, again, John D. Rockefeller was, one of the wealthiest men alive. So that, and everything from then on became petroleum, right? Petroleum based.
yeah,
These oil, the oil stuff, the oil wars that we've,
yep,
you know,
yeah,
that
and
we've all fought over.
that's why Daytona became what it is. Why? Because John D. Rockefeller moved there in 1914 to Ormond Beach, just next to Daytona. So Ormond is where they would race on the beach, and Daytona too. But when they started building tracks inland, like racetracks, they put the big one in Daytona. So everyone knows Daytona. People kind of forgot about Ormond. John D. Rockefeller lived the last portion of his life at Ormond. He died there. He collapsed dead there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to that house. There's a basement there. Not many basements in Florida, right?
What are you
Just
trying,
like his,
what are you
just
trying to
like
get
his
at?
house. Uh, I don't know. Go watch my video on Jekyll Island. He had a
Oh,
house. He had a basement at his house in Jekyll Island too, but he wanted the whole world hooked on petroleum. Now, God let him do it, because at the end of the day, John D. Rockefeller saved the whales. He liberated the whales from human subjugation. The world was dependent on whale oil and whale blubber up until we became hooked on petroleum. So, God kind of let him do it. I guess
does
you
it
can.
make it okay though?
No, but change happens. Time goes on. The old villain has to die. There has to be a new one. And the way that industry was being developed, the way that population was exploding around the world, we couldn't have kept on going and harvesting whales like that. A whale lives like 100 years, 300 years. We still haven't even came close to recovering from that mass kill off of whales around the world that ended when petroleum took over from whale
Whales were the
oil.
first animal God created in the story of Genesis.
Yeah, I think they say that the animals in the seas.
No, it says God created whales and other, like, it specifically says whales.
Yeah, I believe that.
I think it's the King James version, if I'm not mistaken.
Great.
So it's interesting that, right, they saved the whales, but at what cost? Because now petroleum is quite literally in our bodies. Any product we interact with on a day-to-day basis has some form of petroleum in it. I'm pretty sure it's in pharmaceuticals. It's in all sorts of things. And
Mhm.
I mean, it might not be in good old can of Coke, but it's like they took over the world. Yeah, they saved the whales, but at what expense? You know what I'm saying? All right, what are we looking at here?
We're looking at Miami-Opa-locka Executive Airport. History. Aviation pioneer Glenn Curtiss retired from aircraft development and manufacturing in the 1920s and became a real estate developer, of course. Right? That's what
Uh-oh.
you do when you're like a 40-year-old retired 40-year-old retired motorcycle. Right? He's like, apparently he was like illiterate too. Like he'd been inventing since he was like a teenager. I don't know if he was illiterate, but he wasn't super well educated, But he becomes a real estate developer in Florida. And I made a joke in one of my videos. That's what everyone does when they get disgraced and like exposed in some other place. He just moved to Florida, switch careers, switch industries, and you get a fresh clean slate. So he moves to Opelika. It's interesting to note he founded Hialeah, Opelika, and I think Miami Springs. Is that right? Or
Miami Garden, I think.
Miami Gardens. Yeah.
Same shit.
Another neighborhood. So 3 suburbs of Miami. And the 2 of them, he chose Indian names. So he chose Indian names for Opelika, Opatisha Wakalaka.
It's going to be my rapper name.
And then he chose Hialeah, which you could read in Hebrew too. Hialeah has the same meaning in the native languages as Hebrew. A high place, like heaven in the sky, or ascent, like rising up. But yeah. And so he makes this airport. He dumps a bunch of money into this airport, moved the Florida Aviation Camp from Hialeah to a parcel west of Opelika. This small airfield was surrounded by the Opelika golf course. He liked to golf too. I believe he golfed with Native Americans. He would golf with the Seminole Indians. Let me see if I can find that.
Like to golf with the Seminole Indians and then picks like a Native American name? You think he was tapping into some sort of indigenous power or something? Maybe that area does that area have any mounds or anything?
Yes. Oh, and dude, I've got this crazy story. So I've got a newspaper article where the Seminole Indians were shooting at airships. They were shooting at the airships. They didn't know what they were or something. They were shooting them in the air with bullets. And they found out that it was the Seminoles doing it. So they invited the Seminoles onto a trip, onto a flight in the airship. And they went, and they have all these videos of it. And it was Glenn Curtis who was behind this.
What does it say there about the Goodyear blimp? Let me move us.
Yeah, well, the following year, the Goodyear blimp started operating out of this hangar. So why are we talking about this? Scarface, Tony's life gets changed, or, when his life changes in a big, big way, he adopts a new motto. And that motto comes from the airship, the blimp, whatever you want to call it, right outside of the scene of the crime that he just committed. And it says, "The world is yours." Now, that's in South Florida, and that's a well-known South Florida thing, that there's a ton of airships here. It's one of the few places in America where you can still see an airship almost daily, a blimp. And it's mostly Goodyear, but, back in the 80s, I guess Pan Am had airships there too, or at least they worked one into the movie as a tip of the hat to the original one from the 1930s. But so Glenn Curtis was the first guy, to my knowledge, to make Florida a big destination for airships. Let's take a look at a little folder I got here.
Oh, check this out, dude. I have some pictures of a Zeppelin in Miami in 1933.
Dude, I think I'm gonna.
I got that same. That's the picture right there.
Yeah. So these are. Tell me if you can see them.
Yeah, move them over a little bit to the left.
Hang on.
I said the actual thing on the screen.
There we go.
Or that, yeah.
That works, right? Okay.
Yeah, fuck my idea.
So these are all Florida airships, guys. It's going to blow your mind. What Florida looked like 100 years ago, 70 years ago, 50 years ago. This is at the Glenn Curtis place. This is the Graf Zeppelin. So the Graf Zeppelin, everyone knows the Hindenburg. The second most famous Zeppelin in the world, to my knowledge back then, was the Graf Zeppelin. And the Graf Zeppelin had a swastika on it.
Uh-oh.
The Graf Zeppelin was was part of the National Socialist, came out of National Socialist Germany. So that thing was touching down in Florida all the time, right up, leading up to World War II. There was a direct kind of circuit, like a flight path that would go from Europe to New York and then down to Florida, right? So Florida was a big, big destination for airships. Number one, it's really flat. So one of the hard things about airships, to my knowledge, is you kind of have to go up and down a little bit for elevation. In Florida, once you get it set, you're set. It's not going up. It's not going down, really. Very good visibility, right? And what you use them for is things like weather, right? So there's a lot of weather needs in Florida, right? So you want to see things from far away. And so there's a great use for them, and there's a great benefit to having them. And Florida was a good place for them to be. So then you also have Glenn Curtis, who's kind of pushing it. Look at the Graf Zeppelin. I don't know if
big bitch.
I don't know if Graf is a type of Zeppelin. I might be, forgive me if I'm very retarded on this, but I don't know if it's a type of Zeppelin, because that one looks a lot bigger than that one. And they look like totally a little different.
So it is a type of model. So the LZ-127 Graf Zeppelin was a German passenger carrying hydrogen-filled rigid airship that flew from 1928 to 1937.
Now today you'll only see the Goodyear blimp. But look at this shit. I mean, they tied it off at the Super Bowl in Miami.
Wild.
Can you imagine looking up and seeing that?
The Graf Zeppelin over Rio de Janeiro, May 25th, 1930. Looks crazy.
Did this thing like knock over a tower? You see that? Looks like it just knocked over a tower. Yeah, people are like screaming. Oh my God. I forgot about this.
Oh yeah, look, that lady's running right there. Let's look that up. Super Bowl, Miami. What year is that?
Super Bowl X.
Super Bowl X, Miami airship crash. So the Black Sunday was the wildest South Florida Super Bowl. Oh, dude, it did. It crashed into the Orange Bowl.
Damn.
So this is a disaster flick showed Goodyear blimp crashing into Orange Bowl. Black Sunday was the wildest South Florida Super Bowl that never happened. That's a fake picture? Hold on, dude. That's from a movie. So the 1970s were a time of bell-bottom disco music, but there was one movie that epitomized quintessential silver screen cheese, and it was the dud that, of course, featured Miami. Everyone remembers Black Sunday, but how about the one where the blimp crashes into the Orange Bowl? In the 1977 movie, dealt with a plot to blow up the Goodyear blimp over a Steelers Cowboys Super Bowl, and starred Robert Shaw, the captain, who was eaten in Jaws, Bruce Dern, and former Miami Dolphins owner Joe Robbie. The film itself may have been the actual bomb. So it's from a movie, bro. You're showing fake news there.
It's fake news.
It's fake news.
It was like a set.
Yeah, it was a movie.
Huh. Interesting.
We should review that movie. It's called Black Sunday.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I think I was just searching like
Look.
Zeppelin, Florida pictures.
Here, let me pull my screen up real quick so you can see it. So Black Sunday. Look at the cover.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's the cover.
Right there. We got, bro.
What's it about? Go up again.
It's about blowing up the blimp, the Goodyear blimp.
Hell yeah.
So operatives. Uh oh.
Palestinian terrorist group.
I wasn't gonna say it,
What?
but sure, yeah.
Dude, okay, we are going
Oh, look
ham
at that.
on this.
Uh-oh.
Dude, we're going ham on this movie.
Is this in Florida?
Yeah, it's got to be. Or at
Well,
least
it was filmed.
partially set.
Yeah. There you go, another movie. Uh-oh. Why it's important to do your research, people. Find stuff like that. Yeah, we'll do that movie. It's about a conspiracy to blow up the blimp. All right, what do we got here?
More pictures. This is near Curtis's house. Just look at this. He's got, the golf course. You got the airship hangar on the golf course. This is like a old world Florida wet dream going on here.
Yeah. Instead of an
And
RV, it's a blimp, dude. How baller is that?
that's Curtis's house. That's like his backyard.
Very
That he had built.
Moorish looking, huh?
Yeah, the whole thing. One of those cities was like adobe like style, like southwestern Indian style.
Yeah.
And the rest were Moorish. But here. So look at this. This is the Seminole Indians getting onto the blimp, dude. Isn't that sick?
Wow.
And of course you got the Mercury, the foot of Mercury,
Mm-hmm.
the winged sandal, winged shoe for Mercury or Nike, but Goodyear.
So Ravensbreak says Tartaria confirmed. So is Florida Tartaria confirmed, bro?
Yep. Confirmed. Florida Seminole Indians taking a ride in the Goodyear blimp, 1929. And I've got the story on it over here somewhere. This is
that his house?
This is Opelika. This is like the city hall of Opelika. So
Wow.
the one of the last kind of scandals, I guess you could call it, or mix-ups, fuck-ups, was Glenn Curtis left his whole life behind. Granted he was disgraced. Leaves his whole life behind, moves to Florida, becomes a real estate developer, develops these 3 suburbs out of thin air, right? Just like swampland, pretty much before that. Builds all these airships, is bringing all these airships in, doing all these inventions, building submarines and fucking hovercrafts and shit, and RVs, right? But all these houses he's making, he's dumping money into this. He's taking all this money from investors and he's building these big planned cities where all the houses are themed. All the houses are matching the same style.
Edward Scissorhands style.
Here's more of Opelika.
Is this building still around?
Yes, it is. I got a video there. Yeah.
Oh.
There's a couple more of Opelika. But he plans these 3 cities, has them built. They're 90% done. And then in 1926 or 28, a hurricane comes, or 1929, one of those years, probably every year, but a big, big, big hurricane comes and just destroys all of it. So there's 10 or so buildings still standing from back then, the original designs that you see on screen.
Mm-hmm.
But almost everything else got destroyed. So he had to, Yep.
Watch my video on that. Yeah.
Yep. And look at this. Look at that.
That's
Look how big
wild
that
looking,
fucking thing is, dude.
Yeah. Do you have any pictures of them building those things?
I don't know. This is a big, big conspiracy. It's a
look
big
at
part.
go back real quick. Look at those people standing, I think, next to one of the wings of it, the bottom part of it.
Yeah, the rudder or something.
Those are kids, yeah. Right,
On
because
the
they always
beach.
show these places, but they don't ever show pictures of them building it, right? That's always missing. And it's like you have the technology to build this big thing, but you don't have at least paint it or something, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look at that. Walking down the street. Newport Richey, Florida.
That's a little chode one.
Yeah. That's a little Juanito right there. That's what they call that model. Look at this. This hangar floated on a barge. Pensacola. Boy Scouts about to have the night of their lives on an airship. Poor guys. Miami. There's just a balloon.
That's crazy, dude.
Regular sight for Miami 100 years ago. 100 years ago. Can you believe that?
No, the one that I want to see is the one in freaking 1500 years ago. Some Inca dude up on one of those things, getting it down.
Yep.
That would have been wild. Crazy. Which is the one that crashed? You know which one I'm talking about? Like
Hindenburg.
So, what did you say? The humanity or something like that. It's like crashing down, and I think that was like one of the last times they ever flew one because it's not safe, which is interesting because they're kind of doing that now with planes, right? Where all these planes are having issues, and people are like, they don't want you to go flying, dude, because something's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So again, propaganda.
So here, this is what I wanted to read. Seminole leaders view Everglades from air as passengers aboard dirigible. The outstanding event of the Christmas holidays, for which Seminole Indians from all parts of the Everglades gathered in Miami, was the flight in the Goodyear dirigible Defender, which was taken by 5 of the leaders of the tribe. Left, above, the Indians are shown gathering around the dirigible as preparations are made for the flight. More than 130 of the tribe were present at the airship dock to watch the start of the flight. Yeah, okay, but what's the story? They've got the story somewhere. It's crazy. They were shooting at the airships, and they said, okay, let's just bring them up into one so that they know what it is, so that they'll stop shooting at them. They thought they were like
cargo cult.
Yeah, they thought they were like sky gods. You know, they thought they were like, yeah.
And why did that guy have the swastika on his? What was the whole deal? Because they were part of World War II.
Why? Say it again.
Why do you have the swastika on there?
Because the Graf Zeppelin was German in the 1930s, so almost everything German had a it's like American vehicles, might have an American flag on them.
All right,
but yeah, and Florida was pretty sympathetic to some of those sentiments. Believe it or not, a lot of Floridians. And after World War II started, they caught a bunch of German saboteurs behind enemy lines, like our lines. There were submarines that they found in Florida through both World Wars, and they would catch German like assassins and spies in Florida all the time during World War II. But so yeah, that's everything. Big, rich history of airships in Florida. Now, you guys might think that's it, right? Surely there can't be like hours and hours worth of airship content. Well, can you look up Lou Pearlman, please?
Lou Pearlman?
Lou Pearlman. Yeah.
This fucking guy? That specimen?
Yep, click on him. Yep. Hell yeah, let's get into it.
Scale more.
Lou Pearlman, Louis J. Pearlman, was an American music manager, Can you click on his picture real quick so people can see him? Yep, that's Lou Pearlman. Louis J. Pearlman. All right, go back to his. Go back to it so I can read it. Louis J. Pearlman was an American music manager and scam artist. He was the person behind many successful 1990s boy bands, having formed and funded the Backstreet Boys and a whole bunch of others. After their massive success, he then developed NSYNC. You guys heard that right. This is the guy. This was the handler, the manager, the pimp of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all the other groups like that. There was like 10 of them.
Wow.
In 2006, he was accused of running one of the largest and longest running Ponzi schemes in United States history, leaving more than $300 million in debts. After attempting to evade capture, Pearlman was apprehended in Bali, Indonesia, in June 2007. You know, he was really just finding himself and confronting his shadow and connecting with like-minded people. You know, Bali's where you find yourself, guys.
Is it?
Bali's a great place. Bali's yeah. So he was in Bali. He was manifesting abundance in Bali. He pled guilty to conspiracy, money laundering, and making false statements during bankruptcy proceedings. In 2008, Pearlman was convicted and sentenced to 25 years in prison. He died in federal custody in 2016.
Big Papa.
Yep, nicknamed Big Papa and Incognito Johnson.
Check this out.
Hang on, we'll get to it. Yeah. Yep. Lou Pearlman was born and raised in Queens, New York, the only child of Jewish parents, Hy Pearlman, who ran a dry cleaning business, and Renee Pearlman, a school lunchroom aide. From the looks of him, yeah, she was. He was a first cousin of the musician Art Garfunkel. Holy shit. The Sound of Silence. You guys know that song?
No.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Really?
You know that song, yeah.
Yeah, I know that song.
That's Simon and Garfunkel. He's, what is it, the nephew? He's the cousin.
First cousin.
Of Art Garfunkel. It's one big club, folks, and you ain't in it. And George Carlin, he was in it, by the way.
Uh-oh.
George Carlin. Yep.
It's usually the ones that are most loud about it that are in it, you know?
George Carlin was not the great ally people think he was. Let's just say that. Just because you can yell and complain about something that's really obvious doesn't mean you're fucking a genius. George Carlin. George Carlin was never a big fan of him. Never liked him. It's like, if that's what it takes to get your attention, like a dude screaming his ass off, nah. Lou Pearlman's home at Mitchell Gardens Apartments was located across from Flushing Airport, where he and childhood friend Alan Gross would watch blimps take off and land. Now, this is where it gets creepy, Mitch. Because Lou Pearlman, he's known, today he's known as the boy band guy. He's the guy who created the boy band industry, or really pioneered it, developed it. But up until then, he was known as the airship guy. He was the man, the guy to talk to for airships, blimps. He was the guy who rented them to all these other companies for events. And if you wanted an airship in the 80s, that's who you talk to. So let's see. Where did they get the airship?
He sold airships, bro.
Yep. Let me check. If I had to put money on it,
The Backstreet Boys. That's a pretty big name.
so Pan American Airlines. I don't know. I don't know how we'd figure that out, but that's what he did. He would sell his airships and rent them out to Hollywood. You know, they're going to make a movie. They need an airship. They need an airship for a commercial. People want to advertise on his airships. That's what they were really for, too. You know, advertising. That's what he did. So before the whole boy band thing and during the whole boy band thing, he was an airship mogul. You know, that's how he made all his money. That's how he made all his big connections. And
Bro, so is this true? Well, this is AI. This is an AI breakdown, so just keep that in mind. Lou Pearlman, the founder of Airship International, was that him?
yeah, that's him. What are the odds, dude? What are the odds? You see how weird this is? People who have no business working with airships. I don't know.
What the
I don't know.
fuck?
But here's what's crazy. There's a chance that the airship used in the movie Scarface is one of his. I'm not going to say I know that for sure. I don't know. But there's a chance. That's all I'm saying. There's a chance. Now, what I do know is that he was active in the 80s. That's when he was really big with the airships. And we also know that him, Lou Pearlman, trust me, Oliver Stone knows who Lou Pearlman is. I can guarantee you that. Okay. Unless you were living under a rock in the 80s, you know, or in the 90s, you know who Lou Pearlman is. So, and also like using a blimp in the 80s, it's like using basketball in the 80s is Michael Jordan. You know, it's like it's not a direct association, but it's not a direct reference, but it's an easy association to make.
I'm gonna try and find to see if they have to see if they give him credit in the movie, you know?
Yeah. You know, that's what he did. So I'm not going to say I know for sure, but I'm taking a guess. There's a good chance that was one of his blimps. So basically, okay, here's what's interesting. Tony Montana steals the life of his ex-boss and then walks outside, or he walks up to the window and sees his new life's motto on the side of an airship. It's the airship that marks the great shift in the movie. Well, when we look at the life of Lou Pearlman, who's also a Gisilian, is a Florida guy. This is a Florida guy. All that was happening in Florida. All the boy bands and the recruiting. Britney Spears was under his management for a time too. All these people, they were coming out of Disney or going into Disney. And he was like a Disney pimp who would use them in other projects, use the Disney kids in other projects. He's also the airship guy. Are you kidding me? He's the last guy who's like, you know, if airships really were this glorious form of travel and lifestyle and high society, and kind of like the zoo, you know, we talk, or not the zoo, the circus. I always talk about the circus. There's all these conspiracies with African animals and Moorish Americans and fezzes and all this, you know, clowns, all these conspiracy theories. And the circus is kind of a way to just bottle it all up and toss it to the side, right? Or disposal, to kind of dispose of the conspiracy theories. Well, the blimp Lou Pearlman being the blimp guy is kind of like that all over again. Him being the blimp guy, it's like when you think of blimps, you don't think of glorious, refined air travel, delicate, graceful air travel. You think of Lou Pearlman, you think of marketing, you think of advertising, right? Slap a fucking billboard on there. That's all it is, right? It's like degenerated. It is perverted, used for their worst, most commercial application. So Lou Pearlman, okay, what I was going to say was Tony, like almost identity thieves, commits identity theft almost. He takes the life of this boss, literally and figuratively. Takes his wife, takes his house, takes his car. Then the airship kind of gives him the encouragement, right? Fuels the fire for the next half of the movie, next half of his life. Well, is there another parallel between that and Lou Pearlman? Is there another connection beyond just the blimps? Well, guess what? Lou Pearlman got into blimps because he similarly stole the interests and lifestyle of his best friend growing up. His best friend growing up was obsessed with blimps. He knew everything about blimps. They ended up going into work together. Pearlman screwed him over. Pearlman didn't know a thing about blimps. He got into business with this guy who knew everything. Ended up eclipsing him, getting more well-known than him, having more power than him, keeping him under his... This guy took Lou under his wing, you could say, and then he screwed him over. Well, sorry, there's two characters. There's two people. So growing up, he had a friend who was really into blimps and airships. He stole his interests. He didn't have a personality of his own. So he adopted his best friends and ran with it. Then he had another guy who, when he got into the industry, was helping him out, teaching him and doing all the hard work for him, the legwork. Lou ends up screwing that guy over too. So a little bit of a parallel there with, Tony Montana and Lou Pearlman, as far as envy, coveting others, right? Things like that.
Yeah, I couldn't find who owned it. The AI even said that one of the drug lords in the movie owned it, which would have been interesting. Which could have been the guy who sent the hit on him, I guess. And the final scene is, what is it? It's the world is yours statue that he has in his house.
Mm-hmm.
So it might have been that, but I couldn't confirm that with the wiki page. But yeah, I mean, dude, it'd be wild if it was his company that supplied that blimp.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't find anything. I can't confirm it.
Very easily could have been. Would have been someone like Lou Pearlman, who rents his blimps out to Hollywood, just like his company that rents tigers and lions out for movies. When you need that stuff, there's only so many people who can provide them.
Very specialized, yeah.
And so that's the blimp. I mean, hey, there's 3/4 of the show just talking about blimps right there, but it's important. And the whole airship conspiracy, we can't really do the whole theory justice on this show, but go look it up. Tartaria, airships, blimps, Empire State Building, These airships, they used to dock at the top of buildings. That's why they're so... People act like, oh, why would they do blimps? They go so slow, so stupid. Well, number one, it's graceful. So, you're not going to rocket into the ground going 500 miles an hour because the captain fell asleep or something, or something like that. Captain had a heart attack. You have to land an airplane. It's so dangerous. You have to get it so fast just to get up off the ground. It's using speed to fly instead of actual, density, right? So much force. It's forcing itself into the air. right? It's like raping the sky, right? We could say.
There you go. Have you ever
Well,
been on a blimp before?
I don't know if I have been.
Or a hot air balloon?
If no, not a hot air balloon, but there's a good chance that I went on the Goodyear blimp when I was a kid. I just don't remember it. But my grandpa would always want to take us on the blimp. I don't remember if we ever did. But think about airplanes, how much force, all the fuel, they're like, it's like a rocket going to fake space.
Well, those are conspiracies that airplanes are made specifically to kill you on impact, so you don't survive. There's a whole video on it. I can send it to you where it's the conspiracy is that the way it's designed is to take you out.
Mhm.
Is dead men tell no tales, so you can't sue them after the fact or anything. So it would make sense. That's
Yeah,
crazy, right?
it is. But just being in a blimp, people think they're dangerous. You're telling me an airplane's not dangerous? I mean, you have to take it off going like 300 miles an hour or more, and you have to land it. That's like catching a bullet.
Mhm.
It's like, whereas the airship, lofty, easy, gentle, just goes up and down. Yeah, you're not going as fast, but it's like going on a hike instead of mountain biking. you know do you need a bike or mountain bike everywhere? No, sometimes a light pace is okay, and it's graceful. Women felt more elegant getting on these. And what's the big upside? You can land at the top of a fucking building. You can land it down. You don't need to you know need a lot of space and all that shit. You can land it at the top of a building and drop people off. You can go down and drop people off, pick people up. That's incredible. There's so many advantages that we just are completely ignorant of. So at the very least, they robbed us of a very cool form of travel. Very relaxing, very high class. Who agrees? Something elegant about them. So whatever. But Lou Pearlman got his sweaty claws, sweaty
Sausage
word.
fingers.
Yeah. Basically, he became the number one Florida airship guy. And they reference airships in Scarface. So we had to bring him up. We had to bring Glenn Curtis up. But what else is there? The Lou Pearlman guy with the boy bands.
Which is kind
Yeah.
of creepy, right? We can segue this into the next topic on the line there, because right, boy bands, the whole Nickelodeon scandal popped off. They did a documentary on it recently, and all the things that they were doing to those kids. Boy bands, kind of sort of the same thing. I mean, look at Britney Spears nowadays, bro. She's not okay.
Dude, he's the Diddy of his time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's these
Yeah.
characters always that pop up that they're put. What's the other one? Is it Weinstein, whatever, which is connected to uh the other guy. What's his name? The guy that directed the movie,
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone. He's also been accused of some stuff, groping a woman and stuff like that. So written by Oliver Stone, and he also said some comments about the that thing that happened in World War II. uh Kind of sympathizing there. I don't know if flat out denying it, but he has been accused. And in this movie, there is that scene right here. So there are allegations against, this is Oliver Stone, 2017, alleged, walked past me and grabbed my titty as he waltzed out the front door of a party.
Oh, sorry, Playboy model. How dare someone treat you like that?
Right. Well, they're not asking for it if they're dressed that way. All right.
No, we condemn that behavior. We totally condemn that behavior.
I guess he was part of Weinstein's company.
We condemn that because your nasty ass fucking moose titties aren't even worth touching. Bitch, be quiet. You're lucky you got some attention. No, okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't.
Again, in
I'm
1991,
getting carried away.
he was accused by Melissa Gilbert. So again, it's in that line, right? The diddler line. Same guys, same people, Hollywood, media, entertainment, blah blah blah. And in the movie, there's the weird part, which is interesting because Al Pacino, when we covered Devil's Advocate, what was one of the main things in that movie towards the end, where he wanted the sister and the brother, which was Keanu Reeves,
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino to conceive essentially the Antichrist, I'm guessing. And in this movie, his sister kind of, towards the end, she was off her rocker, right? Because he had just killed the man that she loved. He was obviously on a. Can you overdose on coke? Can you?
Yes, you can. It's hard to do, but yeah. Usually people die of bad coke.
Well, again, towards the end of the movie, he was doing mountains of this stuff. He thought he was on top of the world. He thought he was a god, right? So towards the end of the movie, his sister kind of, tells him, like, I think she said, "Do you want to fuck me?" or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that's when I think she ends up shooting him, doesn't she?
Yeah, she shoots him in the thigh. And Tony shoots his best friend because they got married behind his back. And his last name was Bauer. We talked about that in part 1. She's got a Jufro, so she's got a perm. So that's not really fully explained, but there's a theory that Tony Soprano is Jewish. That is a theory. Yep. That he's hiding it or doesn't know it himself, but he's surrounded by them the whole movie. So just skip to there's only like 2 more scenes we should really talk about. If you go to the part where he's counting money and he gets backstabbed, or he gets
with the recording with the clock.
Yeah, it gets set up. Let's see that, and then we can see the final scene where his sister talks to him and the whole shootout. But yeah, so Tony gets set up. He gets recommended this guy to help him wash his money. And the guy's name, it's like Hedelman or like Fiedelman, like Feidelman or something like that. It's like Heidelman. And, Oliver Stone knows what he's doing. He calls him Heidelman. See if you can see the name. Do you have a...
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the
cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name's like Heidelman or something, or Heidelberg. It's it's like impossible to miss, right? And that's the guy that backstabs him or sets him up, right? So Oliver Stone had to have a reason to make both of his greatest adversaries have, either last names or like a Hebrew necklace or things like that. It's very overt. So that's one thing we just got to note is there's a whole lot more you can dive into, but they count the money a bunch of times. He has over $1 million on the table, gets caught with it, set up.
Seidelbaum? No.
Yeah, no, that could be right. That's right. Seidelbaum. Yeah. Seidelbaum. I don't know how to say it. Seidelbaum.
Oh, right here. This guy right here.
Seidelbaum.
Seidelbaum. This guy.
Yeah.
That's him right there.
Yeah. Seidelbaum. So that guy sets him up. Tony gets in trouble, and then in order to get out of trouble, his bosses, his suppliers, ask him to assassinate someone to assassinate someone in front of the UN or the EU building. Now, before we forget, Juan, can we get it? Let's get into the Coca deities, or we'll do that. We'll do that at the end. Can you go to the scene where his sister shoots him, please? The end. Tony's losing it. He shoots the guy that's supposed to assassinate the guy.
I think she shows her tits. Hold on.
Yeah. But Tony messes up. Or, if we were reviewing the movie like in a typical sense, we could go talk about how Tony, no matter how bad Tony gets, he still has his own morals. He still has his own ethics, his own code,
Is it a code though? I mean, what are you, a good bad guy?
Where he refuses to hurt children and women. So he refuses to hurt a woman and hurt children. He says, no, no, no. And think about it. For him, he could have kept making millions and millions of dollars. He would have gotten out of jail free and all this stuff. But instead, and all he had to do was turn a blind eye while this assassin, offs a family. It wasn't even him doing it. He just refused to stand by and let it happen, which commendable. It's the redeeming quality. If Tony never stood up like that in the movie, I don't think people would relate to him as much. He would just be a villain, an anti-hero. But so whatever, Tony does the right thing in that instance, but it costs him his life because from then on he has an assassination order put out on him. Now, he mentioned that Tony, as this is going on, as he has all these people coming out to get him, his sister goes missing and his partner goes missing, the one with the Khazarian last name. And he catches them together, like hopping out of bed together, and he shoots his best friend partner. And Gina, his sister, is, hysterical. He brings her back to the house, and now all the sicarios are coming for him. Now all the assassins are coming for him. And he's got his sister in the house. And his sister, out of nowhere, as all the assassins are closing in, right, coming close to the final shootout here, his sister comes in, surprises him with a gun, and tries to almost seduce him because she is like, oh, you won't let me date anyone. You won't let anyone touch me because you want me for yourself, don't you, Tony? And Tony's like, how do you do? What the fuck, man? What the fuck you fucking saying to me, man? What
you think she was being sarcastic though?
What, you fucking high, man? She's I don't know. It's weird.
Spiteful,
they make the camera and the scene, they make it very glittery and it glows. And Tony's doing so much coke that they're filming the movie as if he's getting higher and higher and he's closer to an overdose. And it's very sparkly and colorful and fuzzy, right? The frame looks very fuzzy, warm when she comes in. So it's hard to tell if he's super fucking just blasted out of his mind and he's hallucinating it. But yeah, she comes in, she shoots him in the leg. She's shooting, kind of making him dance with the gun, kind of. She ends up getting shot by one of the assassins. Then we have the famous shootout that happens. My dad would quote this millions of times in my childhood. And Juan, I don't know if you realize this, but did you catch the homunculus reference?
No.
In this scene, you didn't catch it. This is the most famous homunculus movie in the whole world. You didn't catch it?
Is it My Little Friend?
Yep. Say hello to my little friend. That should be your fucking new channel motto, dude. You gotta, you gotta sample that. You gotta put that in the soundboard. Say hello to my little friend.
Wasn't that an improvised line too? Like, didn't he improvise that?
I don't know. Tell me if you know.
I don't know if he. I want to say he did. Because let's see here. An iconic line. It's memorable quote often used in pop culture. It's not usually used as an I could have swore he had gone off script a little bit. He was like kind of sort of doing his own thing. And I may be wrong though.
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me because it's, why would a Cuban guy say that? But
No, he didn't improvise it. The line was written in the script and was delivered by Pacino as directed. So I might have heard something else was improvised, for the movie. Because I watched a few like video essays and stuff about the movie, and they usually tell you like Easter eggs and things of that nature. And I might have gotten mixed up with something else.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is the scene where the guy comes from behind him, and boom, and then the movie ends with the this guy shoots him, and then we have the the final scene.
Yep, you see the motto there, the slogan there one last time, the world is yours. So going kind of full circle back to the blimp, right? Tony's kind of met his end, just like he ended his previous boss, who probably had a similar meteoric rise to success and, financial freedom and the hot chicks and the drugs. So, yeah, dog eat dog, right? And what else is there? The blimps. Oh, the incest. You want to bring up that Wikipedia or?
Yeah, I saw there's a thing called the sister complex, and it would make sense where he was, obsessed with his sister. And we kind of connected it already to the devil's advocate. But a sister complex, a state of strong attachment and obsession to one sister or sisters. The brothers and sisters who feel a strong sense of affection or attachment to their. So, it's okay to love your siblings. I'm not saying don't love your sibling, your sister, or anything like that. When it starts to get weird, that's when it's weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can love your mom and your sisters and anybody else, but when it starts to get sexual, and it was obviously sexual in this movie when she came out, but maybe she was, I think she was probably being sarcastic, right? Because of what he had done. I don't know, bro.
Go down. Is there does this bring up any
Because it didn't seem
mythology?
like they grew up together, right? Because it seemed like he was very distant for most of their lives, and when they were reunited, she's like, "Oh, I thought I would never see you again." So they kind of don't really know each other, and then he's like weirdly overprotective of her.
Yeah,
after the fact.
He says the last time I saw you, you were like this, like you were a tiny little kid. He calls her beautiful and stuff like that. But it's very interesting that in Devil's Advocate, which comes a little bit after this movie, right? That's like 1990-ish. After this movie, we kind of see like a development of this dynamic where Al Pacino is now the dad. He's Satan in The Devil's Advocate. Also filmed and set in Florida, the movie Devil's Advocate. Lots of parallels between Devil's Advocate and Scarface, right? Kind of. But basically, Scarface. Oh, at the end of Devil's Advocate, like Juan said, Al Pacino's character is trying to persuade Keanu Reeves' character to make love and have a baby with his own sister. And this baby, incestuous union, will be the Antichrist. And, similar to like Rosemary's Baby, kind of, a little bit.
Just a weird connection is all, right? Like,
yeah, it's
and then
probably a pretty common fetish among Hollywood execs is the whole brother sister thing, because what do we see in Star Wars? Right,
yes,
Star Wars and Game of Thrones, lots of incest.
which was, when you first see Star Wars, you kind of, if you don't know the lore and you don't immediately make the connection, you wouldn't know. You go, oh, they're gonna fall in love, right? Like they look like they're gonna fall in love. They look like they're gonna kiss, and then it turns out like, oh, that's your sister, bro. and maybe there was like a little bit of sexual tension there. But for men with a sister complex, older and younger sisters can become a target of sexual admiration as well as idealized archetypes to the point of being more influenced by them than by their parents. So, again, was he in love with his sister? I don't know.
Yeah.
He was kind of weird. He was like pushing. He was over the top with it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You're Latin American. Aren't Latin American families just kind of closer and touchier and more warm with each other? And
a little bit. Like
not like that.
it just depends on how you grow up, right? Like I know people who that even tell me like, hey, I didn't grow up with my dad, so it'd be weird if we were in public and they see like a father and a daughter being more effective. And if you didn't grow up with that, that's to you is weird, right? So again, it just depends on how you grew up. But I would say maybe, it is like a Hispanic thing, maybe like more touchy, not touchy feely in a weird, creepy way. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. Like, showing more affection towards your family members. Because
Yep.
the first thing Hispanic people do is they do that, that kiss on the cheek to cheek sort of thing.
Yep.
It's like a kiss. White people don't do that. So again, yeah, I think it's a Hispanic thing.
Yep. Well, the last thing I want to talk about is, what was messing with both of their heads. Both of them were doing coke at that point. And almost everyone in the movie's doing coke, and how much does that affect the brain? And, the whole discussion between pharmakia, poisons, potions, and things that we call chemical imbalances, things like that, we reduce to kind of scientific terms today, and we explain them scientifically. In ancient times, 300 years ago, they attributed influences like this to deities, to gods. If you got drunk, you were with Dionysus. If you got high, you were with Shiva, right? You're communing with Shiva. If you're smoking cannabis and weeds in the Bible too, you could say God, but pick your poison. There's a deity associated with it. Al Ghul, alcohol, comes from Al Ghul, right? Like this Arabic devil spirit. Cocaine has its own deities. And to my knowledge, there's 2 deities or 3 associated with Coca. Inti, who is the sun god of the Inca, who's maybe not, I don't know Inca mythology that well, but Inti, can you look this up, Juan, please? Inti. Inti is a sun god. Yeah, and he's credited with a lot of things, so he's not only a Coca person, Coca deity. But Inti is credited with creating Coca. And then I believe, like Juan just showed, Mama Coca is the specific deity for the coca leaf. Yeah, make sure your safe search is on when you're searching Mama Coca, okay?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's I might. Yeah, let me put the results.
Then there's a third that I know of, who is Pachamama or Pachamama.
Punch your mama.
Variations of that. Excuse me. But yeah, that's those are the Coca deities. Let's look at their Wikipedias, see if we can.
I'm trying to. Viracocha is also on there. Did you say that one?
No, I didn't know that.
Which is like
Viracocha, Viracocha.
Viracocha. There we go. I make sure I don't pull anything up. So there's another aspect of worship that does not involve the priest, but rather the people and go because they believe they were descended from the sun. More specifically, the ruling class were descended from the sun and connected to people to that holiness. This led every member of the Inca society traveled. They were doing so as a symbol of Inti and their nation, which led to the need to be holy to enter certain cities and even travel at all within the empire. The items offered in worship to Inti for which there is archaeological evidence include simple prayers, food, coca leaves, and woven cloth, as well as animals, blood, and human beings. They got that real meat.
Damn.
That real meat there, bro.
Never frozen, always fresh.
Always fresh. And these dudes were into some heinous stuff. What's that one movie by what's that movie?
Mel Gibson.
Yes, Apocalypto.
Yeah.
Oof, that's crazy.
Number one, I'm a mind reader. Number two, you're Latin American and you don't even know the difference between Inca and Aztec or Maya.
I'm Puerto Rican. Okay. South American. All right.
So
we're on the same level.
Apocalypto is Maya.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that whole,
Okay, you're right.
They're wild, like they're crazy. Like there's a ritual that they do where they would skin the daughter of like the enemy tribe and wear her skin, and then they would have like orgies as the dude is wearing the skin of the daughter of the for like days. Like that, bro, that's demonic. Like what was happening with these people? Or is that propaganda? Like all the stuff that we hear about, is that propaganda? Right? Or do you think that they were actually as heinous as some of these depictions say?
Dude, the whole world was a bloody orgy bloodbath. Like ritualistic sacrifice, blood magic, all of it to the max. Okay. That's what everyone on Earth was doing until Jesus came to planet Earth and liberated most of the world from that. Now, it didn't happen all at once. Spiritually, it did happen all at once. But in terms of rooting that nasty satanic practice out, human, animal, child sacrifice, all that, yes. Did the Inca and Maya and Aztec have some good cities and maybe some people who didn't do any sacrifice? I'm sure they did. But this is a disease, a mind virus, a plague of sin. Not getting rid of sin. This is the sin. Sacrifice is the sin. It's like taking out a loan to pay off another loan. It doesn't work. It's nastiness. It's also, this is the crux of the adrenochrome industry, is how do you get the blood? How is it so terrified? Why, sacrifice. Anything scarier than knowing you're going to die, knowing you're going to be ripped apart, seeing people around you. But okay, so the whole world was suffering. I'm Irish. The Irish did this shit too. No one's hands are clean in this. The Irish committed human sacrifices. The Germans did. Native Americans, you betcha. You betcha. Now, did the Spanish probably maybe exaggerate a lot of this to justify their own atrocities? I'm sure they did. People are nasty. People are terrible. Men who left all their women back in their home country and travel the whole ocean to go meet another country where they have a ton of good-looking women and the men are not as well armed as them. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of bad personality and behavior out of those people, out of those men, those conquistadors. So, but the whole world's a sloppy, ugly, violent place. Always has been.
They had to wear the
Jesus.
skin for 20 days, bro. Whoa.
There would have been smell. You imagine the smell on the 20th
Oh,
day of
dude. And I want to say that
the spunk soaked.
when the dude would wear the chick's skin, he was a chick. So therefore, it's not gay, but it's magic. Right? So
You're right, yeah. So he
use your imagination.
I mean, of course.
I'm not making this up. Like, this is literally like the thing. Like, after having the heart cut out, the body was carefully flayed to produce a nearly whole skin, which was worn by the priest for 20 days during the fertility rituals that followed the sacrifice. The act of putting on a new skin was a ceremony called Netel Quetzalcoatl, translating to impersonation of a god. The skins were often adorned with bright feathers and gold jewelry when worn during the festival. Victorious warriors wearing flayed skins carried out mock skirmishes throughout. Yikes, dude. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Spanish didn't make all this stuff. I mean, you can't make all this stuff up. Like
you think about it, this is such a wild concept. Like, back again to the first guy to put together a meat flap and fly in the air with it, the first hot air balloon, who was like, hey, what if we skin them and wear their skin as like a shirt, dude?
Yeah.
You got to be a sociopath to think like that. Right. And usually, hear me out. Usually the cartel videos, right? And the people who are in South America, like that area there, usually they're the ones that do the most heinous stuff to opposing cartels. And you get all these videos of people just getting like chopped up and stuff because they're just brutal, right? They're known for that, for being brutal, right? And it's kind of in their DNA to a certain extent to be this brutal, to be this evil and nasty, right? Like it's to me, I just find it fascinating, but it's also kind of disturbing how far, right? The darkness, talking about Scarface, the darkness of human, how far you're willing to go. At the beginning of the movie, what they do to that guy? Wasn't it the Colombians?
They dropped him out of the helicopter.
No, the one with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Or it was the Colombians. Again, what they call him? He's like, I'm gonna carve you up real good. That he was like known for that or something like that. So it's kind of sort of in their DNA. But yeah, it just made me think of this. How the hell do we get on this? Wearing their skin.
Cocaine messing with your brain, like
Yes.
drug-induced states being associated with goddesses and deities in ancient times. So yeah.
So we have Viracocha, which is the creator and supreme deity, and it says it's related to Coca. I can't find anything on here. Again, AI likes to lie, so let's just take that into account. Mama Coca, I already looked that up. That's over.
Yeah. The Inca used cocaine for sure.
Is it
Who else did? They probably shipped it over to some other groups, but yeah, I mean, if you take the drug of choice of an ancient people, you might see some of their.
Check this part out. Moon Kila, she was the older sister and wife of and then the daughter of Viracocha and the mother of
Mama Kilo.
Capac.
Mama Kilo.
So he married his sister. There it goes again, that sister complex.
Yeah.
Older sister and wife. Damn, that's fucking crazy.
Mama Kilo, dude.
Mama Kila. The mother of the moon. And the goddess of the moon.
Wow. Menstrual cycle. Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, what does she have anything to do with Coke?
Well, it says that she is the goddess of health and said to have originated the Coca plant, but I'm not finding anything on her.
Right.
On her.
Well, no, that's interesting though. She's an Inca deity, right? And she's incestuous with her.
Which is usually how
brother.
these
Yeah, it's
mythologies
not
go a lot of the
right.
times. Right?
Not uncommon. But
Yeah.
people talk about Scarface as being like almost like an opera, almost like the characters are very archetypal in certain ways, and you see a lot of mythology being played out in the movie. So yeah, probably a lot of influences for the brother sister weird, thing going on. Also, Star Wars wasn't too long before this. This is 1983. The first Star Wars was what, like 1977, 1979. So this came out right after Star Wars.
There's a ritual, so her shrine. So this is Pachamama, which is the mother of Inti and Mama Kila. So this is the mom. And her shrines are hollowed rocks or the bowls of legendary trees, and her artist envisions her as an adult female bearing harvest of potatoes or coca leaves. And then there's a ritual. The most important ritual is the chalaco. Chalaco is a deformation of the Quechua words chale and chaleku that refer to the action to insistently sprinkle. Huh. In the current language of the campesinos of the southern central Andes, the word chalal is used in the sense to feed and give drink to the land. The chalaco covers a complex series of ritual steps that begin in the family dwellings the night before. They cook special foods. The ceremony culminates at a pond or stream where the people offer series of tributes to Pachamama, including food, beverage, leaves of coca, and cigars. And you know what's interesting? Isn't this what's that one town that's obsessed with coke in Mexico? Is that Mexico or is that South America?
Yeah, it is Mexico. Somewhere in Mexico.
Where they're obsessed with Coca-Cola, like that's all they drink.
Yep. Also, another thing we didn't really talk about is maybe I should give more evidence for some of the claims at the beginning that many, many Cubans have hidden Jewish ancestry that they don't know about. But many of them do know about it. And there's, before Castro came to power, there was over 25,000 practicing Jews in Cuba. And many of them, most of them, were expelled and left during Castro's rule, coming to South Florida. So that's kind of part of the context for Scarface and how many Jewish characters there are. Well, if people don't believe me, there's evidence to this. The Reuben sandwich is the Cuban sandwich. It was adapted into the Cuban sandwich, right? South Florida version. Cigars, Cubans, right? Cuban cigars, No. Tampa Bay was the capital of cigars. And those were Cuban families. That's true. They were Cuban families who moved to Florida and turned Tampa Bay into the cigar capital of the world. But they were almost entirely Jewish Cuban families. That's a fact. The early
Illuminati confirmed.
The early cigar companies, the biggest cigar companies in Florida, and I think some to this very day, that is Tony is smoking a cigar almost the whole movie. So he's doing a lot of coke, but he's smoking cigars. Cigars becoming such a status thing. Do you know what tool they use? I'll bring this up in a sec. I just wanted people to see this. Do you know what tool they use when you cut a cigar?
Oh god,
little cigar clipper.
Yeah.
Doesn't that remind you of what a rabbi would use?
I cut the tip off the cigar to be able to smoke it. And then did Sigmund Freud say it was a penis?
Yep, Sigmund Freud. Thank you. Good point. Obsessed with cigars, obsessed with explaining why people like to the sexual reasons. He's also into the incest and normalizing incest and be like, oh yeah, it's normal to want to fuck your parents. It's normal. It's natural.
Yeah, he did say that. What a fucking weirdo.
I mean, that was his thing. He was also addicted to cocaine. He was addicted to cocaine almost his whole life. I shouldn't say it. I don't know about his whole life, but
but I've heard that
when he was
before.
prominent, when he was prominent and famous, he was addicted to cocaine. He'd give cocaine as presents to family members. So I think we got everything in there. Again, there's so much more we could talk about with this movie. Could go on and on. But Juan, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to make sure we get in?
If you smoke cigars, does it mean you're gay?
No, I think you're gay. I think Freud was right that we all want something. That we all.
I got videos of you
something.
smoking a cigar, bro. You were enjoying a little bit too much. You were getting it extra wet. You're like, yeah, dude, this is a cigar.
That we all want something in our mouth, and that if you're not smoking cigars or doing something like that that fills that naturally, you might drift into some suspect behavior.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It's better to. I don't think I've ever seen a gay guy smoke a cigar. Let's just say that. Have you? And you know what else? You know what else?
You. You walked right into that one, bro. I got you on video, bro. So
right. Well, you know what smoking cigars does do for sure.
Does it? Does it cure impotency? Is it the fountain of youth?
It is. Now the fact that the Florida Indians used to smoke so much tobacco probably contributed to the fact that people like Juan Ponce de Leon and them were looking for the fountain of youth, because they were seeing this is part of the inspiration. It wasn't just living along. When Ponce de Leon and the conquistadors came to Florida, they noticed that they quickly found out. Now, I don't know how they found out, but so the conquistadors quickly found out that in Florida 500 years ago, there was no such thing as erectile dysfunction. So 500 years ago, when the Spanish showed up, they quickly realized these guys have never heard of ED. They don't
have rock hard all the time.
Yeah, it's not a thing. They were reproducing. This is something that was written down about the Timucua too, was they would reproduce like really, really long, like old into old age.
Yeah, so they kept their potency, yeah.
Yeah, the mothers would have kids like after 50, like it was no big deal, right? And then the mom or the dads could be super old, like 90, having kids, no problem. That was probably due to tobacco. The Florida Indians, they're drinking a ton of that sacred, fresh water, spring water.
Black drink. The original.
They're doing black drink too, yeah. But they're smoking a ton of tobacco. The women a lot of times would smoke it too. And the men did not have erectile dysfunction. There was no such thing in Florida 500 years ago. Maybe that's just the good food, no processed foods, no, sailor rations, like fucking old maggoty, like boat food, that's what all the Europeans were eating. But there's something to that. And then, Tucker Carlson says this, is famous for saying it, that when you use nicotine, it does increase your blood flow to certain parts. So
rock hard.
Now, I don't think that's true for cigarettes. Cigarettes decrease. Now, I'm not going to say in my experience, because I've never smoked cigarettes, but
people smoke a cigarette after having, it's like the taboo, like in the movies. Oh, they're smoking a cigarette. Maybe is it to calm down? But I mean, I think they were definitely smoking tobacco, but they were smoking that pure shit, right? Like the directly, they probably were cutting it off, one day, the next day drying it out, putting it together, and they were just getting the real deal stuff, which is a lot more potent. And I mean, smoking a cigar too fast will make you sick. Like it will literally make you throw up. So it is, strong shit, especially when they're growing it out there. How you said the times, less
Mhm.
pollution, less things. So it was definitely probably a more potent strain, and
Mhm.
it's gone downhill from there. So it makes sense. These dudes pull up and they're like, man, this dude's rock hard all day. Well, what is he having? And they're probably trolling him, telling him, like, yo, you got to go to this one river, the River Jordan, and there you got to drink the water. You're gonna live to be 105 years old. And they're
Mhm.
just trolling the shit out of these dudes that just landed on a boat that can't even get it up, right? Because they've been stuck on a boat for months with some dudes, right? Getting that pirate booty, because that's what they did, right? I mean, that's documented.
Or
Yikes.
or the Europeans just brought a couple white chicks with them, and they saw their first white chick ever, so they were bricked up for life. None.
They're like, yo, we got to have whatever these dudes are having. Yeah, dong expert Juan.
Yeah, but that's all. That's all I'd add is
Stay rock
there's
hard.
something to the whole Cuban, Juban, Reuben thing, and yeah, that's it. Anything else, Juan?
That's it, dude. This is fun. Still have a lot of shit to talk about. It's crazy. So much to talk about with Scarface. See what we get
Yeah.
into for the next one.
John's up with $10 here. Old maps look like they could have only been made from the air looking down at Earth. Very many rivers inshore that a boat couldn't navigate. Yeah, it's a good point. That would be a good explanation of how they surveyed things so easily in ancient times, 500 years ago or so. If you had a balloon, that makes things a lot easier. And like Juan said, the Nazca lines. Suddenly fucking UFOs aren't that big of like a, you know, mind fuck. They aren't that big of like a conspiracy theory if you just allow or think that, oh, they could have just had balloons in ancient times. They could have gone up and seen things.
Goes against the narrative, though, dude. They got to push their alien agenda and the Galians, right? And
Mhm.
the depictions of the dude, the astronaut, the ancient astronaut. That might have been the guy who was like, "Hey, I got to suit up to go in the air in case I fall to my
Right.
death," right?
Yeah, could have been. Could have been. But all right, guys. That's gonna do it for us tonight. I've got to show you. I'm touching my nose like Tony Montana tonight. Fucking.
What are we doing next?
Let's do that movie that we just talked about.
Uh, Black Sunday, I think it's called.
Yeah, Black Sunday.
All right, cool.
That shit's crazy. Guys, before we hop off here, 450 you in the chat. I think we hit 500 for a little bit. Always grateful to everyone out there. So many of you probably working hard all day, real jobs. Juan's got a real job. I've got a kind of real job. Not real, not nothing crazy, but I've got another job. I work at the bookstore. Juan's got a real job. He's got a real family too. And all you guys I know take time out of your hardworking day to come spend
Hang
time with
out.
us. Appreciate it. It's all fun. It's learning, but you're choosing to learn. You know what I mean? So we appreciate that. And if you feel like giving more than just your attention, which we're grateful for, guys, go hit up tjojp.com. Go give Juan a subscription. Go subscribe to Juan. Go hit all his links. Make sure you're caught up on your preferred platform of choice, but use them all. Why not? Go hit them up. Drop some Puerto Rican flags in the chat to show some gratitude.
Trash can island emoji, please.
Yep. We're real grateful to have Juan here. Guys, make sure you let him know. And yeah, that's it. Go hit up tjojp.com. One-on-one podcast.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you guys next Thursday.
See you guys next week. Stay safe. Love each other. Catch you on the next one.
Here, wait. What
do you do?
Talk for like another minute.
Oh, dude, come on. Can't do that. Yeah, we'll do Black. It's called Black Sunday, a conspiracy to blow up the Goodyear blimp. Black Sunday, 1977. American Action.
Have a good night. Peace.
Later.